Okay, so for this training video, we're going to take this template and customize it. And the process that we're about to go through is pretty much universal across every other Wise Banner template. So the first thing I like to do is select the Move tool up here and make sure Auto Select is checked off and it's on Layer. And what that does is when we select an object, it will automatically select the layer associated with that object. So if we select the text up here, it selects the title layer and the subtitle and even the background layer right here. Now if you're on Photoshop CS6 or possibly above, hit Control H and it will get rid of that little outline that shows up. So the first thing I usually like to do is to customize the background. So down here on our 728 base layer, we can see that we have this this FX little icon right there. What that means is there is layer effects applied to this. So right now we see color overlay. So if we double click on that, it brings up the layer style dialog over here, and we can see all these different potential layer effects that we can apply to this background. So right now it's just cover overlay and it's a black color. So if we wanted a solid color for our background, we can just click over here and pretty much make whatever background we want. So that's one way that we can customize a background. So the other way is through a gradient overlay. So let's uncheck this and then select gradient overlay. Now we can customize the gradient color here by clicking over here in the gradient. And the first preset is always just going to be what's on your foreground and background. So if we click on this, it automatically changes to whatever's over here in a gradient format. So if we double click on this color stopper down here, we can control the actual color. So if we wanted to go all the way black, hit OK, and take this blue over here and just make it a gray color. You see that we have a nice gradient over there, and then we can hit OK. Now another thing we can do is a pattern overlay. So if we uncheck this and select pattern overlay, we can choose from our pattern presets, and if you loaded them from the Wise Banner zip file, you'll see some down here. So it's very simple. We can just select any of these and quickly come up with different pattern overlays. So if we select this one over here and then just clicks outside of it somewhere, we can also adjust the scale of these patterns. So I can make this real small. We can also play with combining these color overlays and the gradient overlay and the pattern overlay. So if I wanted a gradient to also show up on top of this, I would select it and then just take the opacity and scale it down. Or we can change the blend mode. Now layer blend modes are really powerful. If we select it and use our down arrow key, we can see how these different blend modes affect the look and the feel of the background. So I'm just going to set it to normal and just make the opacity around 64%. So even furthermore, you can take the color overlay. We'll make this like maybe like a bright blue. Change the opacity down, and now it has a slight blue hint. So the possibilities are basically endless in this. So I'm just going to uncheck color overlay and leave it like that. So now we have our effects controlled for the background. So after we have that done, we can go ahead and customize the text. So we can take the type tool and just click in here, and you'll see that it extends all the way. So we can make a lot of text, or obviously maybe just a couple words. So this is going to be for Wise Banner, this particular banner set. So I'm just going to come up and just think of something off the top of my head. Make awesome banners. Okay, so if we go back to our Move tool, we can control a lot of other things about this. We can change the font if we want. We can change the font size. Let's see here, like if we wanted to go down to 12, you can see it's really tiny, although that wouldn't look exactly correct. And we can change the color. And another thing that's really powerful is we can also have layer effects and layer styles, just as we did with the base, the background layer. So if we go to Window and make sure Styles is showing over here, we can see these different layer styles, and you can also load that from the Wise Banner zip file. So the layer styles, if we have our current title layer selected, and let's just select this, we can see it automatically changes it to some type of interesting looking chrome type layer style. And these are just different quick color variations. Now you still have full control over all of these. So let's leave it at this green right here. And we can see that we have all these effects. And so we can double click this and we can make adjustments just as we would normally to further customize it or change it up. So the layer styles just provide you with a quick starting point. So I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to change the subtitle over here. I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. I didn't really think of what to type before making this tutorial. So anyhow, I think this looks fine just in and of itself. So lastly, we have the two object layers. So the object layer on the left, I think I'm just going to make the actual Wise Banner logo. So once again, we can make this anything we want. And then the object on the right, I'm going to make it a call to action, like a button of some sort. So let's go ahead, and I provided the actual logo PNG below this video, and you can load that up. I'm just going to go to Open Recent. And so now it has its own new document. So what I'm going to do is hit Control A to select all, and then Control C to copy it. And I'm going to go ahead and close that. And we're going to use our Move tool with Auto Select Layer and make sure we're selected right here on Object 1. Now, something that's real important if you're new to Photoshop, you see how it has a little down arrow and it's pointing down to the base layer? Well, that means that it's a layer mask, and basically what that means is if we had a large image to paste in here, we wouldn't see it outside of this 728 by 90 background layer. So that's real important. So what we want to do now with the layer selected is hit Control A again. Now we're going to hit Delete to get rid of that right there. Then we're going to hit Control V to paste in the logo. Now, because it's a layer mask, it usually pastes right here in the middle. So what we want to do is with our Move tool, uncheck Auto Select Layer, because if we selected right here, it would select this random layer down here, and just move it up. So now we hit Control T to scale it down, and then select on the Move tool and hit Apply. And then there's our logo. So the very important thing to remember here is make sure you didn't create any new layers. If you did it how I did, it should work just fine, and it will just be named Object 1. All right, so over here we have our second object layer. Let's make sure Auto Select Layer is checked off, and we'll click on it. And now that that's ready to go, we're going to go ahead and use one of the call to action button presets that came with Wise Banner. So if we're on the Banner catalog for fundamentals, we'll see right here, click here to view and download the fundamentals assets. So the way this works is these are just quick buttons and form elements that I've created that you can use for object layers. So we're just going to use one of these buttons, and I think we're going to use button-5.psd. So if you click here and download the assets zip file and click on buttons, we'll find button5.psd and just double click it. And this will load it up into Photoshop. So now we have full control over the text and also the layer styles and the color and everything associated with it. So if we look at the layers real quickly, we'll see that we have a layer group called button. So if we hide this, we'll see only the button is inside that layer group. So if we extend this down, we can click here, for example, to try me, or anything you want. And again, you have full control over the font, the size, also the colors and the layer styles and everything here. And right now, just so we can move along quickly, we're going to say that that's going to be our button. So with the button layer group layer selected, we'll go ahead and hit Control E, or merge layers, or merge group, and that takes everything and sticks it on one single layer. So once we have that ready, hit Control A and then Control C. We'll close this and make sure Object 2 is currently selected. Hit Control A, hit the delete key, and then hit Control V, and it will paste it right here. Now again, it's not going to show because this is a layer mask and it's usually pasted in the middle down here. So let's unselect Auto Select Layer, drag it up right there. Now, one important thing to remember is before you run the actual process banners script, we don't have to worry too much about the the movement and the position of these layers. So we'll do that after we run the process banner script. So once we have everything ready, and we have all of our objects and text layers and backgrounds all ready to go, let's go ahead and bring up the actions. And the first thing I like to do is, under the Wise Banner functions, is hit background replication. So let me just scale this down a little bit. So with it selected, hit the play button down here. And so what that does is very quickly takes whatever customizations we made to the background and applies it to all of these other banners. All right. So once we've done that, we can hit process banners under our chosen action file, and this is called Sumerian, the banner template. So once we hit play, it's going to run through all these, and at this point you don't have to do anything, and it's basically duplicating every object layer and text layer for all of these banner templates down here. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to close the actions. And right off the bat, we can see that not everything is placed correctly, because based on the dimensions of the object layers that we've put down here, it may not automatically know exactly where to place them. So at this stage, it's just a matter of quickly making adjustments in terms of size and position. So with the Move tool selected, we can select Auto Select Layer, and then hold Shift, and then we can select both of this Make Awesome Banners and the 30 Banners in 15 minutes layers, and just move them over to the center. We can select this over here and position it over there. Now sometimes if you're, depending on the type of text that you used, you may have an issue where it will automatically add a dash in between these words. And if that's the case, all we have to do is take the Type tool, select over it, and hit the down arrow is one way, but then we've lost some of our text beneath, in which case all you have to do is hit Control A to select all the text, and then just change the font size to something slightly smaller. And then select the Move tool. And one thing to note is on some of these smaller banners, we can't fit all of these objects on there. So just by design, I've left out some of the object layers based on the really small layers that we have going. All right, so now that we have these two done, we can move over here, and we have the same issue. And if you want, all you have to do is take the Type tool, Control A and Control C, and then select over here, Control A and then Control V to paste over it. And again, we can make further adjustments that customize the text and the objects for each individual banner. So right here we have our two object layers, but this is getting cut off. And I think this is so small, this particular 120 by 90 banner, that we can just get rid of this object layer right here. And then just take this over here and move it, hit Control T, hold Shift and ALT, they're all keyed down, and then we can just scale it. Select the Move tool, hit Apply. Alright. And then the same thing with these, we can move these around a little bit. Okay. As you can see, this is a very quick and easy to do. It only takes a few minutes at most to make these adjustments. And if you're new to Photoshop, I may be moving a little bit quickly, but it's a good idea to get in the habit of just going through some of these tutorials where I'm creating these different banners, and then you will get the hang of this real quick. So come down here, move this up, maybe move this down, maybe scale this down, hit Control T, hold Shift and Alt, and scale down, select the Move tool, hit Apply. And then we have another issue right here, which we can quickly fix. Now, if you want, for example, to make these two lines closer to get together in the text, all we have to do is make sure we have window character open. And we'll see right here, we can adjust the line height here. We can change it to 20, for example, and that automatically makes them closer together. Okay. Let's see here. Let's take the type tool and fix this. We can drag this down. Take our Move tool. We're going to just delete Wise Banner right here and the Wise Banner logo down here. Move these over. I think I'll remove it from these ones as well because they're pretty small. Oops. I had to undo that. Now, if we already have, say, for example, a real small icon instead of that logo, we probably would have been able to keep it. Now we can see that it's cut off right here. So if we just select our type tool, click over it and extend it out, we'll make that better. Now we can also increase the size of these by hitting Control T, hold Shift, and scale it up. Select the Move tool, hit Apply, drag this over. And then we have our skyscraper banners over here. Scale, it's going to position these out evenly. Okay, and then this is cut off up here. Now, we could do a couple things. The easy thing to do would be hit Control T and just scale it down, which I think does work for this one. However, if we're working on this thinner 120 by 600 banner and we hit Control T and scale this all the way down, it may be so hard you can barely even see it, which really isn't good design. So we can do something else where, I'm just going to undo that. We can take this square marquee tool, only select where that little symbol is, hit Control C, and then hit Delete. Then we'll go ahead and move over this text and scale it down so it fits. And then hit Control V. And move it just above it. So that's one way that you can work with these layers. And really, once you get good with understanding how to cut and paste layers, you can pretty much do anything you want. Okay, so let's see here. Let's go through a quick run through of all these and make sure everything's good to go. And once you have everything ready to go, at this point is where we go load up our actions. And we could save this as an animated GIF down here, or if we go under Wise Banner Functions, save as a static JPG. So I'm just going to save these as the static JPG, and first it's probably a good idea to save this PSD right here. I'm just going to hit save, and you can probably save as a different name if you want. And then that way, once we go to hit save banners and hit play, we can, this little dialog will come up, and we can name the banner set anything we want. I'm just going to name it Wise Banner 01. And then we can choose to close the document windows that show up after it saves them. Usually this is what I do because there's usually no point to leave 15 different windows open. And then we can adjust the JPG quality, which I'm just going to leave at 80, and then hit Save Banners. So what this is going to do is take every single one of those layer groups for each layer set, it flattens them, creates a new document, and then saves them into the folder, the new folder name that you have. And that is basically it. Now after you run this, you'll see that the layers change. These are no longer editable, so you can't make changes, you know, to the text or any of that. But if I hit, if I close this out and open it back up again, that's why it's important to save it here. That way everything is still editable. And then we can also save these as animated GIFs in pretty much exactly the same way. And so that is it. One other thing to note real quickly is at this point is when you would also create split testing multiple banner sets. So if you wanted to, say for example, test the background color, you could go ahead and bring this up. Let's say for example we want to try making it some other random color. I don't know, pink. It's strange, but we'll hit OK. And then all we have to do is hit background replication, hit play, and there we go. And then we can go ahead and save these banners as JPGs or GIFs. And also the same thing with the text or anything else that we want to split test in our banners. So it's very quick and easy to just create a ton of different variations for purposes of split testing. One thing that's important is we probably should have saved the banner after we ran the process banners, because we could have very easily just changed the text to anything else for other split testing purposes. But one thing that's important to note is after you run the process banners, you can't run it again because everything will get thrown off, and it'll try to attempt to recreate all these on top of each other. So that's why it'd be important to save it after you're right just before you're ready to run the process banners. But that is basically it in a nutshell. Once you get real familiar with the system and how to use it, it makes creating banners just so much easier, even if you're not the greatest designer, or if you're if you don't know Photoshop well. But it's something I personally use, and I've been designing for a long time. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and hit up the contact form. There are also videos that will show you several other examples of real-world banner template creations using the Wise Banner template. So definitely use those and watch those and follow along, especially if you're new to Photoshop. That way you'll kind of develop the muscle memory and you'll get familiar with how to make adjustments and all that. If you run into an issue, for example, if an error popped up when you went to run process banners or any of these other things, make sure you go to the Getting Started page in Wise Banner, and also the Frequently Asked Questions, to make sure you did not do any of the things right here, for example. Do not reorganize layers, do not rename layers, and do not delete or add new layers before you run the process banner script. That's hugely important. So don't try to move things up and down or rename them or add or remove new layers. So with that said, that is it. So definitely keep on watching the other tutorials for the other banners. All right, thanks a lot. Goodbye.